What did you think about when you heard that noise? Was it a video game your son's playing way too loud? Maybe a TV show, Law & Order, SVU? Or maybe you just started thinking, man, it's frightened me. I hope he doesn't know that the whole time. Or maybe you started thinking about going hunting with a friend or family member, maybe to the shooting range with somebody that you love. Good memories. Maybe you thought about death, murder, tragedy, grief. Whatever you were thinking, I know why. In fact, there's only two reasons why we believe what we believe. Every single one of us. The first one is we were taught to think that way. It's by somebody we love, by a book, a movie, TV show. Somebody taught us to think the way that we do. Or we experienced something. And we said, man, after this experience, now I stand here on whatever it may be. You see, oftentimes I travel and speak, and people ask me, Chris, how can we be united? And for me, it's simple. Unity doesn't happen when we look the same or dress the same or listen to the same music. That's not united to me. That's boring, and that's not a world that I want to live in. But for me, unity happens when every single time we meet somebody and they have a different stance than us, we realize there's a story behind theirs, just like there's a story behind ours. So my story, been an athlete for a long time. My mom was an athlete. My dad was an athlete. So at 8 years old, I had this big dream of getting drafted and playing professional baseball. The dream for me wasn't just about myself, it was about my mom. You see, my mom was a teacher, and she always told me how much money she didn't make. And so really quickly as an athlete, I said, Mom, don't you worry, I'm going to buy you the house that you want. I'm going to buy you that car. And it wasn't just any car, guys. It had to be a Range Rover. You see, my mom was so embarrassing. We'd be driving in the car, and I'm a kid, and she would just scream out, Range alert! And I'm in the back so embarrassed. But in my mind, I was thinking, Mom, you just wait. I'm going to get you that car that you want. But I was pretty good at baseball. I was playing Division I at a school local where I lived, and I figured out that I had a chance to get drafted if I just kept playing the way that I was. Then my life changed. My story. 18 years old, I get a call on my cell phone. I saw my mom's name. So I answered it like I would any other time, but the lady on the other end wasn't my mom, and she said, Chris, you got to get down to the church right now. Something bad happened. Got in my Honda Civic. I raced as fast as I could down to my church. And when I got down there, I realized the worst of the worst was happening. I saw the blue lights. I heard the sirens. I got to my church, and there was an officer standing outside. I said to him, hey, you got to let me inside my church. He says, Chris, I can't do that. I'm scared. I'm nervous. I said, listen, I understand you're doing your job, but somebody called me from my mom's phone, and it's not my mom. I'm scared. I'm nervous. The officer was nice enough to stop doing his job for a second. He said, Chris, I'll show you where you need to be. Walked me about a couple blocks away to the Embassy Suites Hotel. When I got there, a lady came down to me. She told me the unimaginable. She said, Chris, your mom got shot. When she told me that, I said, okay, well, it's got to be her hand or her leg somewhere, but my mom is from Newark, New Jersey. She's a fighter. You see, my mom was born in the projects of Newark, New Jersey, but she was fast, so she got a full-time track scholarship to run in college. Didn't stop there, got her master's degree. Didn't stop there, was a track coach. Didn't stop there, said, I'm going to be a children's church pastor at my church. And so when I heard that she was shot, I said, it's got to be in her hand or her leg somewhere, but surely my mom, it's got to be okay. Surely that mom, the one that's going to get that house and that Range Rover, it's got to be okay. They led me upstairs into this big open room. And as I was sitting down in this room, I realized how privileged I truly was. Now, sometimes we don't hear the words privilege from a young African-American male, but I realized how privileged I was because despite all that was happening, I still thought, no way this is happening to me. Not my mom. Not the same mom that would drive a kid home from track practice, and if they said they didn't have a meal at home, she would stop just to make sure they were fed before bed. I said, no way, not me. Reason why I say I was privileged is because a lady came up to me and said she was a coroner. Now, I was so privileged, and hopefully you are too, that you don't know who the coroner is. But I'll never forget, she asked me a question that day, and she said, Chris, can you describe your mom? And I said, describe my mom? What do you mean, describe my mom? Somebody just told me she got shot. I said, surely you're trying to make sure my mom is the one that's okay. Surely you're trying to make sure that my mom is the one that got away and things are okay. You're not telling me somebody's hurt my mother so bad that you can't tell me what she looks like. But I snapped out of it. I hope for the best. I said, okay, my mom, 5'9", short black curly hair, always smiling. Started thinking about her, always singing even though she can't sing. And then she asked me, Chris, okay, does she have any piercings? Yes, ma'am, she's got her ears pierced. She asked our family, does she have any tattoos? And I started to think about one. I said, she's got one tattoo and you can't miss it. It's on her left ankle. I said, you ever seen the word chocolate? She said, of course I've seen the word chocolate. What about an ice cream cone? Of course I've seen an ice cream cone. I said, it's an ice cream cone tattoo and it says sexy chocolate written across it. And we smiled about my mom's embarrassing sexy chocolate tattoo for a moment. And I'll never forget, the unfortunate news was told to me that my mother was shot and killed that night. I had to tell that news to my little brother, Caleb, my little sister, Cameron. Our lives would never be the same. Bang. You see, that's my story. And my stance is that I personally don't like guns. And most people can understand why I don't like guns. When I tell them the fact that my mother was murdered with a gun while she was praying, most people say, I can understand where Chris is coming from when he says he doesn't like them. There's empathy when you hear my story before my stance. And we've all got stories. We all do. One of my really good friends, he grew up a little bit different than me. And his story is that he would go hunting with his grandfather. And I'd never been hunting, but he's telling me a story. He said, Chris, when I would go out there, I would get nervous. I'm sitting there thinking, man, why would you get nervous if you got the gun, right? The little animal running around don't got the gun, but you nervous? He said, Chris, you get nervous because the moment is finally there. He said his grandfather gave him a trick. When you get nervous, the way that you steady your aim, to take 3 deep breaths, hold the last one, and then pull the trigger. So he did. He was out there with his grandfather. He's nervous. 1, 2, bang! Killed his first animal. He said his grandfather was so proud of him, picked him up and squeezed him super tight he couldn't even breathe. The kind of hug only a grandma or a grandpa could give you. He said, Chris, we had a moment. And when he said they had a moment, I knew exactly the kind of moment that he was talking about. I had him with my mom. The night after we beat Clemson University, I had a great game. My mom was on Facebook. Did y'all see my baby last night? We had a moment. After I hit 5 threes on our senior night, when my family was there, my mom was screaming and cheering in the stands. After the game, gave me a kiss on the cheek. Son, I'm proud of you. We had a moment. You see, I had a moment like that with my mom, and he had a moment like that with his grandfather. His story, he says that he goes hunting all the time now, and his grandfather's no longer here in the flesh, but when he goes, he feels like his grandfather is still there with him. And when he finishes up telling me his story, telling me how he loves guns, I couldn't understand why. Just like he can understand why I don't like them. There's empathy when we hear our stories behind our stances. We don't have to change who we are to be united. Whatever flavor of politics we enjoy, whatever faith we're a part of, there's a reason why you believe what you do. And we have to remember, like I do with my friend, that when he thinks about a gun, he thinks about the moments and the memories he had with his grandfather. When I think about a gun, I think about the moments and the memories my mom won't have with her grandsons. Bang.